So I welcome you all to uh, these very instructive, as you will see, very instructive lectures about several openings starting with d4 and usually knight f3 second move. First of all, tell me if you can see me and hear me, please. Who will verify? Okay, thank you very much. So here we go. We will not see theory today. We will see typical strategies. So knight f6, bishop g5. For the moment, we are not studying theory. This will not be the theory of the Trompowsky. So starting from different move order, we will reach some typical positions, which you will see that we will play them in the London and against the London system and against the Torres system. And very often, these are good setups based on the hedgehog. And very often, we will reach positions with minority attack. So the first thing that we need to know very well is the minority attack and how it is related to these openings, not just generally the minority attack. So we play this position for the moment. Theory doesn't matter. This is after d6 and knight bd7. This is the so-called hedgehog setup. The hedgehog setup can be found, can be played against various openings by white, various setups by white. It is important to mention, please, that in such positions, let's say I play knight c6, and white continues with a move like this. So we are now talking about the Torre, but in the London system, the bishop will be here or here. So it's pretty much the same thing. So there is one move for black, which many players may play, and it is a big strategical and very typical strategical mistake. The move is d5. This is the move that we must definitely avoid. After d5, white has a very clear advantage, and we cannot really, usually we have the white pieces in such a position, we cannot really play for a minority attack. This is a big positional mistake. Our bishop has now been closed permanently, and white has a free hand to attack on the king side. So the move d5 is a big mistake, big positional mistake, even if, let's say, it is played for a tempo. Many players with less experience overestimate the meaning of tempo. Let's suppose that white has developed the bishop on c4. I have heard so many times, even by good players, saying that, oh, I will play d5 now because it's a tempo. Well, this d5 is a big mistake, a permanent weakness for black. He creates a permanently bad bishop on b7, in other words. And after bishop d3, and after we keep on playing for many moves, nobody will remember this extra tempo by black, that this d5 move was played with tempo. The only thing that we will remember and that we will have to face is an attack by white and a permanently bad bishop on b7. So the move d7 to d5 cannot be played just like that. However, the move d5 can be very good, and it's going to be one of our basic plans if white plays one specific move. Which is the move, please? This is the first question for our dear fellow chess players. Which is the move by white after which d5 by black becomes very good? Very nice. You have all found it. If white dares to play this move sooner or later, for example, here, maybe a few moves later, maybe a few moves before, then d5 automatically becomes a very good idea and possibly the best move right away. Why? Because now our bishop from b7 will open by force. Either white is going to capture here at some moment, and then our bishop from b7 operates in an open diagonal, or let's say after a3, we will capture on c4, Knight takes, and all of a sudden the pawn from d5 has disappeared, and we have a very nice open diagonal. So in this position, black has a good version of the isolated pawn, and he stands very well. I would say black is probably even slightly better. How do we understand that we have a good version of the isolated pawn? I will tell you a little secret. If we can play the bishop on b7 so easily, so early, something is wrong with white's position. So here I see the bishop on b7 so easily being developed there without any complications, without anything, in an open diagonal. It means that black's position tends to be very, very good. And also I see in this highly typical position, highly standard position, I see something that is non-standard in white's setup, non-typical. And what is that, please? It's the knight on c4, very good. This knight should have been on c3. From here, it belongs to c3, controlling important squares. And additionally, this knight would have come to c3, to the best square in one move, while at this moment the knight is on c4, and after spending two moves. This is also of some importance. So this means that black is slightly better. One good move could be knight d5, and there is another very typical move in such positions, and it's the move knight to h5. Is this move good in this particular position? One must calculate, of course. Yes, this never changes, no matter the opening, no matter the strategy. This knight h5 move is a typical move, but it needs to be calculated. In my view, it appears to be very good. For example, here, black may consider knight f4 or knight back to f6. I don't see any attack for white. It seems to me that black is already better. Very good. So this is the story about playing d5 or not playing d5. Here, knight c6, which is not a good move, as we will see. The knight belongs to d7. So rook e1, the move d5 would have been a big mistake. Very good. So let us now continue with the studying of this position, which is one and the same against both the London and the Torre. This way we can be very practical, and we can face two openings in a similar way, similar fashion. Of course, there are always, each one of these openings has some more details and some things that are in common. So knight bd7. This is a very nice setup for black. The problem for white is that he has nowhere to attack. How should white continue here? The answer is very clear. White should play with his pieces up and down, develop the pieces, and play up and down until black commits some inaccuracy, and then white finds the chance to attack. There is no clear way for white to do something. And many players, many impatient players, even players of high level, because they feel the need to do something, just like in this game, they will play this move, knight e4. This move is a pseudo-active move, and the only thing it is doing is to exchange pieces, and this is good for black, who will now start the typical, very typical for these positions, minority attack. We will see now how to play such positions until very deeply in the endgame. So we will happily take it with the bishop. Let me tell you, by the way, let me again remind you a nice little psychological trick. So here, let's suppose that we want to take on e4 twice. We can start with bishop takes e4 or knight takes e4. And it seems to me to be exactly the same. So we will start with bishop takes c4. Why? Because we are now white, after taking with the bishop, he has this hope subconsciously and maybe even consciously that we will not capture on e4 with our knight, but we will move our rook, and then he will have the chance to get his bishop back and gain an advantage. So what we do, a little psychological trick. We offer him hope for one move, and then we remove it. Yes, this is nothing personal, of course. We just try to maximize our chances. So queen takes e4. If black takes here, there is even knight takes e3, which is winning a pawn for white, for black. So queen takes e4, and here d5. Now the move d5 is a good move, in fact. Now there is no bishop closed on b7. It's not necessary completely. We can also play a move like knight f6 or just take here. This move is also very good. Maybe it's even the best objectively. Here, and we continue. One important thing to note, please, is that we cannot avoid the move d5. For example, let's suppose we are here. Black needs to play this move now. This move is not just good, it's obligatory. It needs to be played, because if we play b4 immediately, which is our plan, now this is a strategical mistake. After this, white will play c4. Here is a question. If we play d5 here, can white get this position with a knight on d3? The answer is very clear. It is a matter of tempo. Remember me saying the minority attack is a matter of tempo. Each side has some plans in a position where the minority attack is possible. The question is, how are the pieces of each side located? Where are they located? And even who is on the move? So that one plan that white desires to do, he has the time to do it, or he doesn't have the time to do it. The minority attack is a matter of tempo. So here the move d5 was played, queen g4, bishop takes, queen takes, and black takes here. And now black is ready to attack with b5. This is the famous minority attack. The minority attack doesn't need a lot of material in order to be played. Even if white goes a4, it's a6, by the way. Maybe even this move makes sense. Every detail here is important. For example, the knight on h4 is misplaced. Black has played h6. This is a useful move in the complications. I see too many rooks on the board. I don't want to be checkmated on the last rank. So you see, every little detail is important. In this position, if I take this knight and put it here, but how can I do that? This is 1, 2, 3 moves. So if I put this knight here, everything is different. That's why we say that the minority attack is a matter of tempi. Here, black is better. For example, with a move after a5. Or black can even play a6 and soon prepare the move b4 with this move, or maybe force white to do something after knight b6. So, in fact, black has good chances for an advantage. Let's see what happened. Here, a5, because he will play b4. White played rook f to e1. Many players, even of good level, I have seen it several times, don't really know what to do with white in such a position. They play this bad knight e4 move, carelessly exchanging many pieces, and ending up in such a position which is worse for white. This version of the position with the pawn on e5 rather than on d4, yes, this version is even better for black. Why? Because a rook will appear on c4, and imagine with maybe even with queens on the board or without queens, and previously the pawn was here. Our plan is b4. Now the pawn is here, and our rook even has influence along the fourth rank. And so this is adding, this is again a minority attack. We will play b4. This is adding even more pressure. So the minority attack is one of the most important positional themes, and it is closely connected to our opening choices in the London and in the Torre with black. So after knight e5, we will happily take it. Rook takes. And look, even this move h6 is useful. Another problem for white here is that he needs to spend one tempo to save his king from backrank checkmate. So here, a takes b4. It is better for white to take here. How about taking with a c pawn and playing a4? This is usually very bad for white because he has many weaknesses. For example, b3, and this pawn will not go too far. Next move is this, rook c4, try to attack the a pawn, or maybe even rook c2, and this pawn cannot win. So after b4, white's best idea is to take here. Look, playing this move is even worse. Why? Because we will take on c3, or maybe even better on a3, it's the same. And here, because black is better in this endgame, the presence of the two A pawns can only help black in this particular position. He's even winning this pawn after rook b3 here and taking here immediately. So white should prefer to get rid of these pawns as early as possible. So after this and rook e3, this is in fact how the game was played. Black has a big advantage. He takes here, and white took with a pawn. Look at this, please. How will the game continue? Here is the question. How will the game continue if white takes with a rook on c4? What do you think? On c3. If white here takes with a rook, how will the game continue? What do you think? Let's see. Is this related with the London and the Torres system with black? Absolutely. I can tell you by my experience, it is absolutely related. You won't believe how many times I got these positions, even against strong opposition. So, taking with the rook is a mistake. Now, if white takes with the pawn, look, which he did in the game, he has one weakness, the pawn on c3. If black takes with the rook, if white takes with the rook, this is a further mistake. We move the rook somewhere, anywhere. I put it on a fade just for fun, just to show you that it's not really important. And after this, all of a sudden, white is found with two very weak points. The pawn on b2, which is, as we say in these situations, more of a weakness than a passed pawn, and the pawn on d4, while black has a very safe, stable, powerful pawn structure with no weaknesses. For example, b3, rook b4, rook d3, rook f to b8, rook b1, or rook a3. And here there is this very important typical move, which is very much connected. We have seen it in the past on different occasions, because this is typical high-level endgame play. So which is the move for black, please? It's one of these two moves, either g5 or h5. Which move is that, please? Is it g5 or h5? What do you think? Very good. You have all found it. The move is, of course, g5. Listen, it is important to know that we have two ways of developing the king. When a player is new to chess and he is just learning the moves, he learns to play h6 or g6 in order not to be checkmated on the last rank, and then he learns to take the king out in the endgame. So all that he does is to play here and somewhere here. But in this position, putting the king somewhere around here doesn't really have a meaning. The king is not doing anything particular here. So we have two ways, in fact, to develop the king. One is to just take him out of the castling, and the other one is, as I like to say, to develop the king from where he is. So this is the case here. We will play g5, and the king will be developed from the king side, where he is already on the king side. So the move g5 is a multi-purpose move. We are gaining space, which is very much, believe me, when I say it's very much connected with the London and the Torre. And if you face the London, let's say 10 times in a row, in 3 of them, you will get these positions. In 3 of them, 3 out of 10. So you will get a minority attack even more often, but in 3 of them, you will get to play g5 in a similar endgame. So this g5 is an important move. We gain space. We are fixing these 2 pawns, this one and this one, and we want to go up with our king and start playing from there. We all know, we have heard the principle of 2 weaknesses. So this is not enough here. d4 is weak, b3 is weak. You may say, 2 weaknesses. Yes, but this is not enough, because one may claim that black has 2 weak rooks now. Our rooks are attacking, but they cannot win the pawn. They are weak. So that's why it's 2 minus 1 weaknesses. And a second weakness needs to be created somewhere. For example, white plays h3. We will play here and here. And next move is h5. At a good moment, maybe f6, maybe e5. Or maybe h4, trying to play g4 much later. And this endgame is not at all equal. Black has a good advantage and chances to play for win. Additionally, these lines will help you to improve your endgame technique. You are forced to keep on playing good moves here and play until the very end. Otherwise, you cannot win a game against the London. You cannot, you will always get such a position. You will not win material, a piece or something. Many pieces will be exchanged, and you will be forced to play an endgame. This will improve your endgame technique. Let me show you, instead of g5, which is the correct move, now I will play a wrong idea. I will play h5. White goes h4 and g6 and g3. Now there is nothing really to do here. Look, to play f6, he can even play f4 if necessary. So our king is stuck here. It cannot do anything, and there are no ideas with e5 or g5. Theoretically, even if we could play g5, let's say I play this random move and g5, this g5 has nothing to offer us here. White will happily exchange it, and now both sides are full of weaknesses. g3 is weak, d4, b3, but the same goes for black. This is weak now, and so we haven't achieved anything. In this position, black is slightly better, but white has very realistic chances for a draw. So let's see how this game was played. After bc3, the correct move for white is to take with the b pawn bc3. Do not lose your courage here that the game is going to be a draw. We need to be in a creative mood. So rook b2 is the move, threatening to play rook c2. And now I would like you to suggest to choose a move between rook c1 and g3. Let's see. All these are very typical ideas and very typical endgames. So we must suggest a move for white. Which move is the best? Rook c1 or g3? There is something wrong with one of these 2 moves. In both cases, black is better, but there is something wrong with one of these 2 moves. let's see, we already have some correct answers. The right idea is g3. If white plays here, stopping rook c2, then there is some very nice tactical idea which causes a lot of problems, and it's possibly winning material combined with the problem of last rank checkmate. Who can find the move for black to win? If we cannot find the move, we will play here. This is a nice try, but not good enough. He will play rook d3. So who can find the move? The move is rook to d2. Very good. Threatening to take on d4, and this position appears to be completely winning. For example, after this, we will play here. And after this, it's obviously too late. White missed his chance to play g3, and he gets checkmated. So here the move is g3 and rook c2, rook a3. And now that the forced play has stopped, once again, it is black to move. Since the forced play has stopped, black must play this move, which he did in the end. He played it. The move is, of course, which move, please? g5. g5, if you ask your computer, most likely it's going to be the first choice of the computer, this move g5. But as I always say, the computer cannot really explain why. So we play g5 to fix white's h and f pawn and to have a very nice path for the king to be developed. And then we see, for example, playing this, or imagine having this position, especially with g6. Now our advantage is very limited because we don't really know what to do. We don't have any play with our pawns on the king side. And playing with only with the rooks, it's not enough. We threatened again, he protected it. We try this, hoping to go to b2. He can always defend. Possibly he can even play this. And after here, we will even be in danger of losing with rook f3. So this is not enough. We need pawn play. And indeed, pawn play will come with g5. For example, h3. Let's see. King g7 and g4. Yes, this g4 move is quite possible to be played. Black will continue with king, rook c7. Yes, just a precaution. And king g6. Look here, waiting move, and h5. If white takes on h5, then he has even acquired a broken pawn structure, causing further problems. So he played here. And how should black continue here, please? What do you think? We must definitely play h4. This pawn on h4 is very powerful. Why? Because it is well protected, and if we manage to win the h3 pawn, or let's say to capture the h3 and maybe lose another pawn, then we will have a powerful pawn on h4, a powerful passed pawn. Now, one may say that with perfect play, it is still a draw. Yes, what else can we do? We are trying our best. We got an advantage and we play for win, but we cannot win by force. Yes, I mean, if you see right from the beginning, white has not committed any super tremendous mistake. So we are gradually improving our position. And here there is also another plan. Look at this plan, please. Oh, we are also helped by this pawn on h4 here. So what is the plan? A very clear plan in this perfectly played game by black. A very clear plan, and we are helped by our h4 pawn. Which is the plan? Who can see the plan, please? Who can see the plan? White will soon move this rook, right? This rook will be here. Yes, so we cannot give checkmate. So how to play? He played here. We will put our rook on b1, but what is the plan after that? I don't see. Rook b to b1, and then what? He plays, for example, rook a2 or any other move. Let's see, rook to b1, and he even played here. So how to continue, please? Black to play and win. There is also this threat here. First of all, black played a good waiting move. He played king g6, very good waiting move. Removing the threat of rook takes e6 check. White obviously cannot play here because he will be checkmated. So he played this, and here comes the deep plan. The correct idea is, of course, rook to h1. Here comes this move, h5 and h4. Now we want to give a check on h1. After this, he played king f6, because after rook f3, again, we are threatening checkmate. The white rook cannot be on f3. So f4 was played, a move out of desperation. Otherwise, if he plays any other move, like, I don't know, this one, black will simply collect 1 or 2 pawns and he will win very easily. After this f4 move, black won the game with rook g3. So very high level game in this common strategy, which hopefully you will see very often in the London and in the Torre. Let's check another game with similar minority attack strategy. So bishop g5, exactly the same idea applies in the bishop f4 London. For the moment, we are not examining theory. So here, b6, bishop b7, yes, d6, knight b7, a6 is playable. And here comes knight e4, the impatient knight e4. One may ask, what is the objective evaluation after knight e4? I would say either slightly better for black, or maybe this is a bit strict, or maybe equal, but black has a lot easier play. So castles, takes, knight takes f6. We can even take with a bishop. This also makes a lot of sense, but I guess white will not exchange. He will play here. So knight takes f6. Black has comfortable equality. What is happening after such a move? We will see that in the theory session. What is happening after such a move? This we already know. How should black continue here, please? We already know. He must play d5. Very good. After taking, black is clearly better. We can take with a knight. He has a very clear small advantage. Now, this move, the way I see it, would have been a dilemma. This move, let's suppose that this is here. Let's make it a bit more clear. And this is here. So let's suppose we are here, and last move was bishop takes d5. This is a dilemma. Should I play like this? We do have compensation. After taking here, it does make a lot of sense to sacrifice this pawn. How will black continue? Of course, here, since we started it, we need to continue with bishop takes f3, of course. Since he cannot capture with the queen, he has to take like this. And let's say a move like knight d5, possibly knight d5. There are also other moves available. So, okay, our rook, I randomly placed it on e8. It doesn't belong there. Anyway, do we have enough compensation here? I would be a little bit skeptical. Practically, yes. Okay, we are standing very well. Maybe here I will play this move and open up the space for the queen. Okay, taking with a bishop may also have some sense, but knight takes d5 here. Very good. Let's see how they played in this game. Rook f to e1, rook e8 here, and queen c7. Finally, because white doesn't know what to do, he doesn't really have a plan here. He needs to play waiting moves and see. There is nothing else. This is the main reason why we choose these setups with black. We are playing for small advantages, for minority attacks. There is not an easy way for black to win, to play for a win. But on the other hand, white doesn't know what to do. So he took here and he played bishop e4. Now, playing d5 is again a mistake. I would have never played the move d5 because regardless of the pair of bishops, if I play d5, for example, bishop here, or maybe even back to b1, white has a clear plan to attack. With rook d3, let's say here, rook d3, I don't really know what to do. Here, very easy play, rook g3. Of course, after taking here, how should white continue, please? Should we take with the queen or with the pawn? What do you think? Which move makes sense strategically for white? Of course, white must take with the pawn. Yes, white must take with the pawn in order to attack. Otherwise, there is no attack without the queens. After queen takes on e5, I don't like this move at all. Black will happily exchange here. And okay, we cannot say that black is better here. No, we cannot say that. But this bishop now is meaningless. It was put here in order to target the king. These rooks here now, they are meaningless. It is totally pointless for white to start creating threats like this. Yes? So now what should white do in this position? Play such a move, maybe here, bring the king out and keep one position which is about equal, maybe very slightly better. For who, I really cannot say. Okay, so of course white will take with a pawn, and then he has good attacking chances. For example, I go here, intending a4 and b5, rook h3. Here, queen e3, all the time creating threats. We want to go to h5. So there is a question why there is no minority attack with a bishop on b7. With a closed bishop, there is no minority attack because, as we have explained, by definition, if black has a bishop on b7, it means that white has a bishop on this diagonal, which means that white has good attacking chances, which also means that instead of black spending useless tempi for an attack and ignoring his defense, he should spend the same tempi to organize his own defense instead. This is why, with a bishop on b7, there is no minority attack. Black should not even try it. But of course, on the other hand, if white takes with the queen, now things change. Because now, even with a bishop on b7, black may spend his tempi to organize a minority attack, because white cannot organize, although he has a bishop on b1, powerful bishop, he cannot organize an attack, a strong attack without his queen. So everything of what I said is automatically cancelled, and black here has a clear plan to play a5 and b4. This is the answer. So after queen c7, takes, here we can take on e4 and then d5. We can play b5. The idea of b5 is not to play b4. For example, here, and yes, queen e4 was a mistake. Let's say white plays here. Now, this would have been a big mistake. White goes here, and if I play this, intending to take on d4, that's too late. Now it should have been black to move already. Imagine this position with the pawn already on d5, and here we go b4, and after this, it should have been black to move, and of course we take it. But here it is white to move, and he plays here, and white is now better. So we don't play b4. We can maybe play such a move. And again, we are not threatening b4. But if white, for a second, loses control of his c4 square, for example, by playing such a move, now, indeed, we don't even need to play d5. Now we can play b4. This is, again, a minority attack. White cannot play c4, so we will either take on c3 or we will take with the queen, and here we will continue with this traditional mini minority attack, a5 and a5 and a4. I can maybe even add this move, d5, if I want a more, let's say, safe advantage. Very good. So let's see how this game continued. Queen e4, which is a bad move. Black takes it. I personally prefer the minority attack in the end game so that my opponent won't have any counter attack. So I would happily change and play d5 and a5 intending b4. How to make the minority attack? You can try to play the move before in any possible way. You can play here and b4, it's good enough. You can play here and b4. You can play here and b4. You can play here and b4. Very common is to play a5 and b4, like in this game. So a5. If white is given 2 or 3 moves, for example, to play this move, yes, I went sleeping for a while. He plays this move. I continue my sleep. He plays a3. Now I woke up and I want to play b4. Now it's too late. White will play b4 himself, and he will put his knight on c5. And here, white stands well. Black cannot complain either. He can still play here and capture on b4. This knight on c5 is here for defensive reasons. Okay. So after queen e4, the question would have been, should black play d5 and go for a minority attack in the middle game with queens on the board? Or should he exchange the queens and then go for a minority attack? In my mind, I would say this is a matter of taste, but in my mind, it is clear. I would like to exchange the queens to erase any possibility of counterplay and only then go for a minority attack. White played knight e5. And now both moves are good. Which are the 2 candidate moves, please? I would say this is an easy question by now. Which are the candidate moves? Of course, the candidate moves are either b4 immediately or bishop takes e5. I would have taken here. Bishop takes e5. Rook take, oh no, he took with a pawn. Now, additionally, the move rook c4 becomes even more powerful. Rook d4 was played, and here black played this move. It does make sense. If I add more pieces on the board, this can be a mistake. I will explain it to you. Here, black is much better. But if, for example, white could put a bishop on c1 and defend this queen side forever, let's say this is here, we will see such examples here, and imagine more pieces on the board, white bishop on c1 and queens on the board. White has defended the queen side forever, and he can organize a strong attack if he has queens on the board and a bishop on c1 and some pieces left on the board. So in that case, our strategy would have been mistaken, but here our strategy is very good. After this, a4, rook d2, and now we hesitate between 3 possible moves. Who will find the 3 possible moves for black here, please? I see 3 possible moves. Which are the 3 candidate moves for black? And if you ask me which one is better, I cannot decide very fast. I need time to think. So 2 candidate moves for sure. One is a3, the other is g5, and there is a third one this time, f6. With a pawn here, we wouldn't bother to play f6. We would definitely prefer g5 and then f6. But with a pawn here, this move also makes sense. Because if he takes it, our idea is to make a strong center after some moves. So in the game, the move g5 was played. Please do me this favor. Let's suppose I played this move and a3. please do me this favor. Do not ever, ever, ever play this move. Yes, this impulsive move where the rook has absolutely nothing to do on b3. He cannot take the c3 pawn, the a3 pawn, or the b2 pawn. The move rook b3 may have a meaning if I add many pieces on the board. Not even with two rooks it doesn't have a meaning. If I have two rooks there and he has one rook on e2 and one rook on d2, the rook has nothing to do on b3. If I want to put it somewhere, if I want to double the rooks, I can put it here so that after f6, this rook is useful to protect e6, for example. Okay, let's continue. The game continued with g5 and king g7, finally a3, and king g6. Look at this very nice idea by Black. Black can play f6. After f6, he is better. Here, hoping to play this without blundering the pawn on d5, and maybe later king c5, d4, and get an advantage. However, this is a very clever move, king g6, because Black wants to force g4, stopping king f5, and only now play f6. And this situation is even worse for white because this pawn on g4 creates a lot of weaknesses. Black has all the chances in the world. By the way, I see, let's suppose that he plays here. Okay, how should Black continue here, please? I insist in these endgames because this is the strategy. We take the theory many steps further by learning very well to play such positions, which are, believe me, very possible. So, one interesting idea is this, very interesting. It needs to be investigated. And now either rook here or h4. This move, but he will play king e3. Yes. Another very interesting move is, of course, this one. And the meaning of this move is to play e5 without losing this pawn. And now what is our plan? Our plan is to bring the king here, possibly here, maybe rook b3, my favorite move, rook b3. Let's suppose he is waiting. He doesn't have something better to do. Look here, yes. And finally, rook b3 looks good now because we are threatening d4 check. By the way, if here white decides to play such moves, let's say, just a second. So, for example, such moves, give me a second. And h4, we should not be scared. We must enter the complications. There is no other way to win. Winning without any complications, it is not possible. Yes, after h5, taking on g4 is another very interesting possibility. I just didn't have enough time to consider which one is best. Yes, I'm answering one good question. So here, yes, we must enter the complications. Like, for example, here, threatening d4 check. He takes here, and now we may give this check, or we may take here. Yes, indeed, we must enter these complications. And here, for example, we have 0 chances to lose, and we have chances to win. Okay. So, save, yes. Okay. Let me show you another example, which I like very much. It's this game. This is a game between two legendary players from England, Mark Hebden and Michael Adams. Let's check how Michael Adams played with Black. So against the Torre, h6 first, c5, takes, bishop here, b6. And so after bishop g3, we have some kind of London. You can call it London now. Imagine bishop f4 and bishop g3. So bishop a6, indeed, this way of handling the position is also playable and good. It is equally good with bishop b7. So here, the light square bishops were exchanged. Black played b5, and he stabilizes his position. And if they ask, what is his plan? His plan is, after several moves of preparation, to play a5 and b4, when the move c4 for white will not be possible. This is black's plan. So rook f to c8 and d6 and a5. Very good. Knight e4, bishop e7, yes. Rook c1. For the moment, black cannot play b4, of course, because after b4, white will take it and play c4, of course. And now we are forced to go back. And this is not what we like. So queen a6, black takes his time. He wants to play b4 at a good moment. Here he is not in a hurry. And finally b4. And white is left with one weakness on d4 and one weakness on b2. White played this move. Yes, this move is quite possible several times, but here we will play e5 in most cases, and this will resemble some knight off. We will play at some moment f5 and bishop f6. This was a possibility on several lines, on several occasions. So this is how black played, very high level play. And now the pawn on b2 is very weak. The king is safe on h7. Please pay attention to this move, king h7. Before starting the action, black secures his king. And queen b7, now even the d5 pawn is weak, the b2 pawn is weak, and black has a winning position. He captured this pawn. There was some counterplay here, but with good moves, black at his super tremendous level managed to win the game. Okay, and one last game, which does not come at all from the London or Torres system, and yet we got very fast to this typical minority attack strategies. So here, this is one position. You could say one London position with a pawn on d6, where the light square bishop of black was exchanged for a knight, for example, and then black decided to play d5. So exactly the same strategy can be found in other openings. Now it resembles more and more of a London system. This game shows that even with opposite color bishops, it doesn't matter at all. Black has good chances in this position to play for a minority attack, because white doesn't have any attack. So they played some moves like this. Yes, and I really like this move, knight h5 and knight here. We have seen, I believe, this game maybe long time ago on some similar occasion, because this is a very well played, very high level game. So how should black continue here, please? By now we know this is not theory of the London or of the Torres system. This is typical idea. So we must play knight f4, and after this move, the best move for black is to take on e5 and then to take on d3. This would have been the best. Here we already know that this is even worse, and here we are playing for a win. I would like to put the rook on c4, very well placed, and then play a5. After this, with queens on the board, I won't play g5, of course, with queens on the board. Without queens on the board, I will definitely play g5. Here we will continue with a5 in this even preferable version of the minority attack. Here black has a huge advantage. Here black has a considerable advantage. Yes, so this, and in the end, black won. Here is, however, another very, very instructive game, which is this one. With the white pieces is a player with only 1900, but he played wonderfully in this game. And with the black pieces, it's a player with 2300. So let's see what happened. They played this system. Yes, black is doing very well. He exchanged some pieces. D5, which in my view appears to be a bit premature. This move would have been even better. Intending knight f6. We will see all these things in the coming days. So here, by the way, after knight d7, how should black continue in case of c4? What do you think? How should black continue here? There is a very typical idea. Very good. The best move is d5, and after taking knight f6, collecting the pawn in this position, black has an advantage. Let's see what happened in this game, please. Knight c6, I would say that black is maybe slightly better. So they exchange the pieces. Look, bishop f6, they exchange the pieces, and now we will see why white won in the end. White played this move, bishop takes, rook takes. If they ask, what is the evaluation here? Slightly better for black is the answer. Black played queen c7. Already this is a mistake. The queen steps away from the king side. Look, the correct way would have been rook c8, provoking c3, and b5 with a very powerful attack, minority attack. For example, after this, a5, and here we come. But look, I keep my queen on d8, and if white tries to do something, my queen is ready to help with the defense. For example, here, we can play even queen f6. Or we can play g6 here, and rook h8, temporarily we defend. And finally, we play b4. Yes, look, white may look as if he is attacking, but please note that if his attack fails, if he doesn't deliver checkmate, then he will find himself with some randomly placed pieces on h7 and on g3, and he will lose too much time to get back with his pieces. He lost time to get here. He will need to lose extra time to go back, and black will use this time to collect whatever is there on the queen side. Very good. But let's see what happened. Instead of rook c8, black played queen c7. In chess, activity of the pieces is the most important thing, more important than pawn structures. In terms of pawn structures, we are already doing very well. But that's not enough. White played here, and queen c4 is a further mistake. Black should have kept his queen close to the king side. He should have played a5, an attack with pawns. He played queen c4, and white played b3, queen c7, and now black appears to be in trouble. Rook g5 and h4, queen g3, and there is trouble. Of course, this move is also threatened, queen f6. So white has now an annoying little advantage, an annoyed advantage. After here, rook h5 was played, already threatening some annoying ideas like this one, and if h6, some rook lift to e3, some sacrifices. So, just a second. After rook h5, black went back, and rook e3, annoying attacking possibilities. Black has very inactive rooks. He played f5. He played this bad-looking move because he sensed trouble. For example, after this, trouble has arrived. He can play queen f6. White can play queen f6. Or even better, white can play here. Here, let's see. Rook e5. Maybe we can keep it. Maybe here, if we think very carefully, there is a way for black to stop the attack. Just maybe. For example, if he plays something like this, then look, a lot of players have gathered. Rook g3, for example, threatening all these tactics. So even with limited material, oh, but here there is queen f4. Yes, even with limited, or maybe there is this move. Even with limited material on the board, there might be an attack. So black should have been more careful. He couldn't stand the pressure, and he played this move. And after taking here, rook e5, white kept everything, and he managed to win the game. This game is teaching us that we need to be careful. It's not only about which material is left on the board and what pawn structure we have. It is also about the activity of the pieces. Very good. Let us now check something totally different. Enough with these stories. So here we go. d4, imagine the move knight f6 for black here. Knight f6. And if knight c3, d5. So by transposition, they reached this position here and knight c3. Our move order can be this one. d5, bishop f4. Theoretically, we may play c5, we won't. And e3, and we reach the same position. Here is a very typical idea that many people didn't know in the Jobava London. And my dear friend Jobava himself managed to win several games before people would bother to turn on their computer to see what to do against these annoying little openings. And is there any direct threat? Yes, it is. So here black played e6, and this is a move that we must avoid. The reason that we must avoid this move is not because we are closing this bishop. This e6 could have been a mistake here with the pawn on c3 and cd4, ed4. This move is not such a big problem theoretically because this knight is also misplaced here. But in this particular position of the so-called Jobava London system, white can continue with a very typical move which appears to make no sense, and yet it is very dangerous, giving white an advantage. The move is knight b5. So we passed now to the so-called, this is one version of the Veresov opening. Some call it Jobava London. So knight b5. This move appears to make not much sense because black can save himself with knight a6. However, the problem after knight a6 is that black cannot get rid of this annoying knight on b5. This is a typical mistake which has been committed before it became well known by many players, including many high-level grandmasters. Everybody allowed knight b5 and got a worse position. So c3 is necessary, and after this, a4, the move a4 will be played even here. a4, and as you will see, there is not a clear way to get rid of this annoying knight. If we play c4, then there is one powerful idea for white. The move is b3. And after taking and queen takes, we definitely cannot make use of this supposedly weak pawn, which is very well protected. White is much better here. The knight on a6 is misplaced, but it had to be put there initially. And white simply develops his pieces, and he has the initiative on the queen side. Maybe much later, after castling short, he may even play c4. So a typical mistake and a mistake that needs to be avoided, it will be avoided in the theory session, is this move. Let's see one or two games here. So bishop e7, a4, castles. And now there is only one thing that white needs to be careful about. It's not to allow this move. Because if black gets to play this move, then he will soon exchange the dark square bishop, and finally he can play knight c7 or even knight b8 without blundering. Imagine a move like this. We will happily take it. And now we can play this, or maybe even this. Previously, with a bishop on f4, white would have played this move, of course. So here, black is doing well. So he needs to be careful about that. White played h4. A typical idea is even h3. So h4, strange kind of chess. 15 years ago, such kind of chess that did not even exist. Playing h4 and a4 in the very first moves. So this move is stopping after knight f3, knight h5. White will simply go back to h2 with his bishop. So knight e4 was played and bishop d3, some moves here. And in this hyper-modern way, white has a big advantage. There was some calculation here, some sacrifices, and in the end, white managed to win the game. These players are of a very high level. White had a rating of 2400 and black a rating of a bit more than 2200. Let's check another nice game by two women grandmasters, women superstars, women world champions, Stefanova and Duaneta with the white pieces and Alexandra Kostenyuk with the black pieces. Again, our move order will be different. Yes, we will start with d4, knight f6. Let me show it. d4, knight f6, knight c3, d5, bishop here, and we will get to this position. So this game was played in 2014, 10 years ago. And after e3, again, black committed this mistake. She played, which move, please? She played, show me the move fast. She played c5. From a strategical point of view, this is a correct move, of course. But if it allows knight b5, it's a big mistake. Knight b5 forcing this move. h3 instead of h4. And here, knight f3 developing the pieces. We are waiting to see two specific moves for white. One move is c3, opening up the queen from d1 to the queen side. And the other move is, of course, a4. So here, c3 was played and c4. Usually, after c4, we already saw the reaction. Which is the reaction, please? We cannot leave the situation like this for too long. White has to play b3 very fast. She played a4 and knight d2. I would have played b3 maybe, but of course it needs to be calculated as well. a4, the move b3 is in her mind. She played it now, b3. C takes and queen b2, very good. Not easy for black to get rid of the pressure. She cannot play here because of knight c7, once again. She cannot play here intending knight b8 because this is dropping. So it's not easy to get rid of the situation. She played here, queen, bishop e2, yes, castles. And indeed, finally, black, after a lot of effort, managed to develop her pieces. But again, white was better. She played a5. She has the initiative on the queen side. And she played c4. She managed to win the game. So this typical idea, this typical trap is something that needs to be avoided in the Jobava-Veresov, where we will see some rare line, which I like very much for black. And this will be the case now. Let us go and study, please, another respectable opening So d4, e6, and e3. This is the call system. White has a lot of flexibility. His plan is flexibility. He has several ways to develop his pieces. For example, here, this is my game. I played the move c5. Let's suppose that we play such move, which is playable and good. White has several setups. He can play here and include the move c4 and knight c3, or play c4 and knight bd2, or play b3, bishop b2, and maybe c4 much later, or play b3, for example, here, bishop b2, castle, develop the pieces, and not play c4 at all. He may play such ideas and try to attack. So the good thing for white about this opening is flexibility. Let's see now, we are not studying theory, we are studying typical ideas. So here, after c d4, e d4, black was intending to allow white to play either bishop f4 or bishop g5 and play a London or a Torre. But things are not so simple, as we will see in the theory session. So here, the move b6 was played, and c4, bishop b7, and b3. White insists on a clear, pure pole setup. So black has one very good way to play against this setup, several good ways. So the way to play is to play d5, and just like in the Torre and other lines, and at a good moment, we will capture on c4. If they ask, when will black capture on c4? The answer is clear. When we feel that white is threatening to play c5. Can we just capture here? Yes, it is playable, but maybe, let's say, a little bit less flexible. So one thing we need to know, black played knight c6. Let's suppose I play this random move, knight bd2, and I play here, and I play here, and a3, and here. I haven't played good moves for black on purpose, and now white has a huge advantage. White can finally play this move c5, and this is coming next. For example, after taking, white will take here, and he will play b4. This move is not possible. White has a huge advantage, a strategically winning position. He stands better on both flanks. Why did this happen? Because I played passive and bad moves for black on purpose, and because at a good moment for white, I allowed the move c4 to c5. I should have captured on c4 a bit earlier. So knight c6, here is another question, please. Let's suppose I take here, a little bit premature, but not a mistake. B takes c4. Now, by definition, black is facing a dilemma. Should he develop his knight on d7 or on c6? Who can give a positional justification of either one move or the other? Both moves look very normal. Are they equally good? Is knight c6 better, or is it knight bd7 is better? What do you think, please? In these parallel hanging pawns in the center. Very good. We have some answers, and they are all correct. Bravo. I congratulate you all. So the knight should be developed here if we have the chance. This is the correct move, because the knight on c6 is pressurizing the pawn on d4, and at a good moment, it is controlling the center, of course. At a good moment, if necessary, we can attack the c pawn. We want the parallel hanging pawns to be hanging indeed. So knight c6 is generally the best move. If we play knight bd7, the problem in this position is that our knight cannot go anywhere. So our position is stable enough, but a bit passive with this knight on d7. Maybe we need to take it here, but it's not really so simple. So this is a move that generally a position that I would like to avoid. So in this game, the move knight c6 was played. And after knight bd2, black to move, he can play rook c8. We will see what is the plan, especially we will analyze it deeply in the theory session. This move is very interesting, knight b4. What is the idea of this deep move? To take the bishop, I got you all. To take the bishop if white doesn't see it. No. The plan of the move knight knight b4, very good, yes. One player can connect various ideas from different openings, and the connection is absolutely correct. So knight b4, what is the idea of this move? To force white to play a3 at some moment, so that after, let's say here, whenever we play knight a5, try to do something, this move can be annoying. Knight b3 with his pawn on a2. If I take on b3, he will take with the pawn. But if I force white to play a3, then this knight, for example, if this pawn was here, first of all, the pawn itself is hanging on a3. On a2, it is not hanging. But additionally, in this position, knight b3 is not even possible. We can take here. He has to take with the queen. And we can even take on b7, on f3. Even if we don't take on f3, we manage to exchange favorably a pair of pieces. And this is good for black. Just like in the isolated pawn, it's exactly the same strategy with the parallel hanging pawns. We want to exchange pieces. So this move is a deep move strategically. Knight b4, white played here, and now black continues as if nothing is happening. By the way, what is black's plan here? The answer is very clear. Black wants to play rook e8. Let's say I play random moves for white. Here, rook e8, bishop f8, g6, bishop g7, for example, here, and bishop d3 again, g6, and around this point, the time has come. I will capture on c4, and I will play bishop g7. If black manages to put in this setup, he is almost always better. Why? Let's explain why. Because these parallel hanging pawns in the center, they are weak by themselves, and they become even weaker when we start exchanging minor pieces. However, they generally provide white with some attacking possibilities. White would have been looking for a good moment to play these moves. Imagine with the pawn here, d5, he takes d5 and sacrifice maybe both bishops against our king and win a brilliant game. So these pawns provide white some attacking chances. But if we manage to put the bishop on g7, this attack is zero now. With the bishop on g7, which is totally facing and opposing and winning the battle against this bishop, white here has zero attacking chances. There is absolutely no way for white to attack. And so, since there is no attack, the parallel hanging pawns little by little become weaknesses. So this is the plan for black. Now let's check this game a little bit. So rook c8, indeed a3 was played, and rook c1, and d takes c4, because as it seems, this move would have been a huge mistake. After this move, white is much better. What will he play, please? Who will say the move fast and confidently? c5, and then this move is coming next with a strategically winning position. So the moment we feel that white is threatening c5, we capture here. And rook e8. Now, of course, playing c5 now makes absolutely no sense. It is only weakening the central squares. So Bishop d3 was about to be played. Bishop f8, of course, we are not naive. Before I execute the move bishop f8, I calculate d5 for white. But it seemed to me that it is not really doing anything. So, for example, after a move like knight f1, intending knight g3, we take a deep breath, we play g6. If I manage to play bishop g7, I relax forever. Now it's the moment for d5, but it is simply not working. We take here, and there is nothing to do in the complications. Knight takes, takes on d5, queen takes. I don't see anything good for white. And if white just goes knight g3, then bishop g7, we are over with this d5 threat, and we will move on pieces up and down. By the way, please do not ever make this plan for black. Queen a8. I hate to see such plans with the queen on a8 or the queen on aj. Yes, putting the queen here on the queen here. This is always absolutely bad and very impractical, even if the computer suggests it. So in the game of chess, I don't know about other table games, but in the game of chess, chess is not the game where black puts his queen on a8 in the opening, yes, as a part of theory. Never play queen a8, please. Because in the coming complications, the queen may take too much time to get back to the game and we lose the game. So a8 is not a square for the queen. Very good. We can play such moves like rook here. Maybe we can put it here. Yes, this is a lot more sensible. Maybe, and I can go here, provoking exchange of queens and play for win. So let's see what happened here. The move knight e4 was played. Black exchanged and played knight a5. Bishop takes b7. Knight takes b7. This position is still about equal, but in a practical sense, black is better. So here, the move knight a5 was played. And after this, I played a very deep move, which is much better than g6. I played f6. This difficult move, which even has chances to be a big mistake. This difficult move in this particular position appears to be very powerful. I stop knight e5 and all the time I'm threatening this, and I'm also I'm stopping. I want to play also queen d7 and put it here, but here I allow some knight g5 ideas, forcing g6 and some weaknesses left and right. No thanks. With the move f6, I am stopping all these things, and I believe I correctly estimated that the weakness on e6 cannot be felt. So this is what happened in this game. And later black started attacking. I played e5 at a good moment. We will see the rest of the game, possibly even tomorrow, or you will see it by yourself. Now, here is one last example of another variation. Let's see it here. Just a second. Where is the game? The game is, wait. So I cannot find the game, but we are now talking about this opening here, e6, g3, this move order. So after this move order, I have absolutely no doubt that the best move in a practical and possibly even in a theoretical sense is this one. In case you play another move, drop it and play b5. I have played b5. I have played this position several times in my life with the black pieces and the white pieces. And you may remember what happened. In all of the games, black was better a bit after the opening in all of the games, no matter if I had the white pieces or the black pieces. So b5 is a very nice line, very good practically. White needs to be a real expert in order to try and put some pressure. We stop the c4 move and we want to quickly solve the problem of the Catalan bishop by putting it here. For example, he castles and we play c5. We can even play this move, d5. This move is playable. This is not a regular Catalan because white cannot play c4. And for example, after such a position, black has already gained some space on the queen side, and he is never really suffering with a bad bishop because this bishop can always go in the long run after a5 and bishop to a6 and b4. So we have two ways to handle this position after b5. We can play d5 or not. So according to theory, the best move is this and enter a Catalan. No, I wouldn't accept that. After this move, white can either play c4 immediately or maybe even bishop g2. So it is one of these rare cases when one move has less theory and it is the best move. How is this possible? And yet it happens. Let me show you another example of this principle. A move that has less theory and yet it's the best. Look, he goes here, irrelevant with our study, yes. Here, d6. Now, if we white to move, if he plays c4, there are tons of theory. However, there is a move which has much less theory and it is better than c4. It happens sometimes. Which is this move, please? The move is knight c3. Very good. So we were following this system. I believe it is called Polish variation. It doesn't matter. We are not here to study names. We are here to study games. So c5 or maybe even d5, our knight, as you will see, will be developed in most cases on a6, and black has easy play. One time I got a better position with white here against the Vietnamese genius Le Quang Liem. And I was a pawn up in the endgame. You can check the game in the database, but he managed to make a draw. But he clearly had no idea how to handle this position. We will learn tomorrow very well how to handle it with black. And so this move order, which can be problematic because here you cannot play, for example, the Bogo Indian. You can play b6 if somebody plays the Queen's Indian, but this is not a very good version of the Queen's Indian. So, and we don't want to enter a Catalan. So this move order could have been a problem. Not anymore if we learn the move b5. By the way, I remember many years ago, a lot more than 20 years ago, Grandmaster Atalik had shown me this move, Queen d3. I believe he played it in one of his games, but threatening the pawn on b5 and threatening e4. But in fact, we can even play this move, this artistic move, bishop a6. But if we play a6, this is not a good version for white. We play this nice counter-attacking game with c5 and bishop b7, and it seems that our pieces are very well placed for this counter-attack. So these are some of the basic, very basic ideas. The most basic to be taught is the minority attack, and the most common because it involves two of our suggested systems, both the London, as you will see, and the Torre. And these are some general ideas and general strategies about these systems. Tomorrow, we will start with more concrete stuff. And of course, we will refer to some typical ideas of strategy as well. I would like to thank you all for participating and hope I will see you all tomorrow. So thank you so much and bye for now.